right? Psalm 131, let's call this one too high, a phrase that will literally come from verse 1 in another psalm that helps us understand the ways in which as we mature, we have to grapple with ambition. In this psalm that is just 3 verses, first verse of which basically saying, look, Lord, my ambitions symbolized in his eyes and his heart are not too high. Going on in verse 2 to talk about the ways in which he is actively trying to get them under control or get them in check, as he is going to go on in verse 3 to simply say Israel instead of hoping in ambitions, or as we've talked about earlier this week, the pursuit of happiness. Try to find contentment in hoping in God, which in some ways can seem superstitious until you recognize the basic reality of what this psalmist is trying to get us to understand. And that is, I might be able at the end of verse 1 to consume myself with things that are too great and too marvelous for me, but what's it worth? Understanding that part of the contentment this psalmist seems to have either reached or seems to be approaching comes in embracing the fact that we are just people. Going back to that Psalm 9 statement again, when the psalmist is saying, remind the nations that they are just people. Understanding that a lot of our unhappiness can be connected to our ambitions. And as this psalmist is talking about here in Psalm 139, implicitly, he seems to be talking about vain ambitions, the desire to be more than what we really can be, grappling with the fact that we have human limitations that are often tied to superhuman hopes and dreams. But the thing that I quite possibly might have liked most about this chapter being verse 2, the way in which he says, I have calmed and quieted my soul, understanding that this level of contentment seems to be a process, understanding that the Bible describes the ways in which he has designed us for something that is actually superhuman. And so it's not abnormal to have great ambitions, but a recipe for frustration, as we've mentioned before, is having great ambitions without realizing our actual practical objective limitations. A realization that seems to have brought the psalmist a level of calm he might not otherwise have had.